Once I heard from a couple that in Israel, young people didn't want to get married and raise a family because they were afraid of the possibility in the future losing their loved ones, considering what happened in the Holocaust. This suggests how historical events can have an influence at life stories and vice versa. I call this process history, the combination of history and story, and my PhD is in history and psychology, and I'm researching especially the diasporic community of Jews of Rhodes Island in Greece before and after deportation to Auschwitz. Although the Holocaust is not the only event at the survivors' lives, it is especially important since it changed the course of their lives. They lost almost everything, but they survived, and they overcame, and they raised families, and they told their stories. It is also important to identify who is looking at the subject, and this is my story. I am a psychologist who has experience in clinical attendance and counseling, and researching trauma, memory, identity, and the Holocaust for my bachelor and master degrees at the University of São Paulo in Brazil. But I come from a family of civil engineers, and I am familiar with construction terms. So, I am building up a historical study of the Holocaust in Rhodes, considering the life experiences of survivors available at the Visual History Archive, and I will interview their descendants utilizing the oral history method. To analyze data, two approaches are being considered: the sociological perspective of collective memory and the psychological view of transmission of trauma, memory, identity, and nostalgia across generations in families. My challenge and target is to link all these columns. And the initial results are a brief description of psychological trauma, the history of Jews of Rhodes, and the report of 4 survivors from the interviews already covered. There is no doubt that the Holocaust was a traumatic event that destroyed Jewish communities in Europe. Rhodes was one of the last communities to be deported, but the second most decimated by percentage. Nearly 90% didn't survive. Every family and society have their particular stories, and all of us can learn from this study in how to deal with transgenerational traumas. And considering the complexity of the subject and the human beings, this is a transdisciplinary work, and all of the above concepts, oral history, collective memory, trauma, resilience, identity, and attachment, act as pillars to support the challenging work of reconstruction. Thank you.